Section 6 of the contract is called due diligence. Now, we call it due diligence not as often as we call it inspection period, and they're kind of synonymous when we talk about them. But understand people from other states may not know that. So if you are watching this and you're from somewhere else, then you may see that in some places due diligence is separate from the inspection period. I know in South Carolina, you have to basically buy a due diligence period. They only give you the home inspection. Here we combine both of them. So if you're from a state that does those periods separate, understand here in Arizona, they are combined. And basically, this is just a time for you to take and study everything you can about the house. You're getting a home inspection, a general home inspection. If necessary, you may need an HVAC inspection or a roof inspection or the plumbing inspection, something a little bit more depending on how the general inspection goes. You're also looking for wood infestation, so little creatures that are not renting your property that live there and you want them gone. And then the other thing would be making sure this square footage of the property is what you think it is. This is the exact time where if you have, if you're getting it appraised and you're not 100% sure, maybe it feels smaller than what the tax records say it is or what's on the MLS, and it's going to be important to you to see if that square footage correlates, then this is going to be the time where you want to get it done. By default, our inspection periods are 10 days, right? And the buyer is paying for everything they want to get done, any kind of home inspection, termite inspection, any kind of inspection they want. This is the one time where the seller is contractually allowed to let you in the house, right? So sometimes you want to go back and measure for stuff or do things, and we may not be allowed back in the house. So I always suggest that these are the days during these 10 days during these inspections that if there's any measurements you want to take on the property to double check and see if your stuff fits, make sure cars fit, all those types of things, this is where you want to go look. Also, if you have the buyer advisory, which I'm sure you've been given, then you're going to take that and go through them. And there's hot links in the buyer advisory for checking out crime statistics, they call them, good Lord, I forgot. The ADQ Superfund sites, right? Like, so for example, if you're buying in an area that was around the old Motorola plant, there's some wastewater stuff that had gotten into the soil and it's a required disclosure, right? So these are things where you can check out a lot of those things, a lot of those pieces. Soil, we have funky soil here sometimes and in certain locations. This is the time for you to double check on all those things. I mean, I've even had clients not realize, they move here from somewhere else and they're willing to commute a distance, but then they realize where they are to where they're going during rush hour significantly adds some time to their commute. So it ends up not being a feasible property for them. So this is the time to check basically everything. And we'll go over the things you should be looking at, but just know this is where you're going to be checking everything out. You're going to have about 10 days to do that. On that, somewhere around that 10th day, because they say you get one bite at this apple, right? If we found termites or anything else that needs to be requested for repair, even though we know this contract is as is, we can still request repairs be fixed. We can put that request in, we get one shot at it. So it's not like you can say, well, I'll ask them for these 5 things, and if they don't do 2 of these, then let's ask them for this instead. It doesn't really work that way. Let's just talk about everything you want to ask for. Termite treatments can be done at this point. There is an opportunity to ask for credits in lieu of repair. So those are all things we talk about, but just knowing that the most important things are going to be the general home inspection, the termite inspection, the square footage issue, if there's any, making sure your insurance, you can get insurance on the house. We talked about a clue report, basically finding out if the house is insurable. So making sure that you can get a confirmation of availability of insurance on that property. If the house is not connected to a sewer, or if a sewer scope is important to you. In certain areas at certain times in history, there was Orangeburg used for sewer pipes, which were basically caving in for a lot. So, some houses built in the 70s or, early 80s, you may want to do a sewer scope to see what the conditions of the pipes look like. So that may be really important. If it is a septic, this is also where a septic inspection is actually done by the seller. So we're making sure that when a seller is going to transfer the certification of that septic over to you, we want to kind of know possibly during that time too. Now, since the seller does have about 20 days to get the septic inspected, it may or may not have been done at this point, but if it comes up, then you will get an opportunity if you're finding that the septic is not in good condition, if you don't want to move forward with it. Swimming pool barrier regulations, it's not, even if the regulation is there, like for example, you're required to have a gate around your pool. A seller can actually sell the house without the gate around the pool. That's totally up to the seller. And then it's up to the buyer if they choose to buy it that way. They may want to add the gate. They may want to do different things. So every city has its own law as to what constitutes pool barrier safety. So if there is a pool at the house and you have younger people who will be running around, those who can't swim, it's a good opportunity to figure out what those pool barrier requirements are. And that will be in your buyer advisory as well. Now, I love how they put this in bold because this is important. You acknowledge as a buyer that I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to basically anything in the home. And that's basically, it's kind of, we want to make sure that we're not giving you bad advice, right? I may know how to turn on a light switch, but I can't say, oh, look, this light bulb is out because the light switch doesn't turn on. What if the whole entire light fixture doesn't work, right? And I just told you it was just a light bulb, but now you're spending a little bit more money. So we tend not to say much during the inspection. I mean, I can share with you historically what's happened, but we can't tell you what is or isn't happening. So that we rely on our home inspectors and the professionals that know what they're doing in order to give you that information. Now we submit the inspection notice over somewhere in and around the 10th day. Then if whatever we've asked for, the seller now has 5 days to respond to us. And in that time, they potentially could be getting bids or trying to get some more information. And they can respond in a couple different ways. They can respond by saying, we'll do nothing. They can respond by saying, we'll do everything. And in that case, if they say, we'll do everything you're asking for, that basically ends our inspection period and we're done. / due diligence period. They can say, we'll do this, this, and this, but not this or this. Now, if they say anything other than we'll fix everything, you as the buyer have 5 days to decide if you are okay with those things that they're not going to do. And then at that point, you can either cancel your contract and get your earnest money back if you choose that is not enough for you. Or, sometimes we do some more negotiating potentially in there. Try not to, but it could potentially come up. Or if you're like, you know what, that's fine. Those were smaller things anyway. I'm just glad they're doing the big stuff. So that's an option as well. Then you say, yes, we will accept the house, and then we continue to move on. There are a lot of register of contract rules, handyman-like work. I know we all would love to have a general contractor fix everything in every house, but sometimes that's just not the way the words are written in the contract. It's in a workman-like manner. And if it's anything with a less than $1,000 aggregate of repairs, a handyman can do it. The seller themselves can do it. So just keep that in mind. We can't require a seller to have a certain group of people or person or trade do something, unless of course, plumbing, electrical, anything like mechanical, plumbing, electrical, those types of things are required. But like if you have a door that's rubbing, you don't need to hire a general contractor to maybe shim the door a little bit or do something to change it up so that it's not rubbing any longer. Just know that, we can't make a requirement of a seller if the repair you're requesting is doable by a handyman or the seller. Then we have the home warranty, and highly recommend getting home warranties. They do protect you as the buyer in case something goes wrong after close. The home warranty company will look at the inspection report. So if nothing shows up, like, your microwave was working just absolutely fine when you bought the property, you closed, and 2 weeks later it went out. Well, the home warranty company will be like, okay, well, that's on us then, and they will help you replace that microwave or repair it, repair it first usually, and then see if they need to replace it. This is where we ask for it to be done. Paid for by whom, we usually put to be determined on the coverage and who the home warranty plan is, because we'll send you some information on home warranty plans and you can make the decision. Then we sort of give like an allowance of who's gonna pay for it. And if it's more, if we've checked the seller is gonna pay $750, comes out to $800, then as the buyer, you just may want to throw in that extra $50. Then right before close of escrow, 3 days prior, we do a final walkthrough, make sure everything is in substantially the same condition as when we first saw it, and that the repairs that we have requested to be done are done to a manner that is appropriate. And this part, if you didn't ask for any repairs, it's mostly just making sure that the house doesn't have any new damage you would have seen, or someone moved out and put holes in the walls or anything like that. This is going to be the last time we actually get in the house, usually prior to close. So it's a good idea if you have to take any final measurements or want anything else, this is the opportunity to do it. So if this was a big section, so if there is anything that you still have questions on or want to know more about, please feel free to reach out.